All right, so I want to tell you this incredible story. It's about a guy who literally started from zero. I mean, nothing. And in just 90 days, he completely turned his life around. And the whole thing, the entire journey, it all kicks off with this one little piece of paper and a single decision. So the guy's name was Daniel. He's 29 and his life has just imploded. No job, his family's a mess, he's completely alone. And look, this isn't just, a bad week. This is rock bottom. This is the kind of place where you stop even looking for a way out. He's living in this tiny, empty room, right? But the four walls weren't the real prison. The real prison was what was going on in his head. He'd started to buy into this really dangerous belief that this was it. This was his life forever. And once you believe that, well, you just stop trying, don't you? But then, one night, something changes. He's just walking, not really going anywhere, and he sees this strange note taped to his shop window. It's not some big, dramatic moment. It's subtle. It's just enough to create a tiny crack in that mental wall he'd built. And through that crack, just one little thought gets in. What if? And that single question, what if? That's what starts everything. It's the spark. Which brings us to our first part here, the 90-day catalyst. That note, it became his deadline. Not some magic fix, but a starting line. It was the beginning of a fight he was going to have to choose to show up for, day after day after day. And what's so powerful about this is just how small his first steps were. Look at this. This wasn't about some grand, heroic gesture. It was about these tiny, almost forgettable decisions. Day one wasn't find my dream job. It was literally just get up. And from there, every little step just built on the one before it. Each one was a new choice to just keep moving. So he ends up at a community center and meets this guy, Marcus. And Marcus doesn't grill him, doesn't ask about his past, doesn't judge. He just gives him this simple, direct invitation. No strings attached, just an open door. So Daniel actually manages to build this small thing, right? And Marcus doesn't throw a party for him, doesn't give him a pat on the back. He just looks at what he did, looks at Daniel, and gives him a single quiet nod. And that small gesture, because it was earned, meant more than any praise could have. That nod was the reason he chose to come back the next day. Pretty soon, through Marcus, he gets this little gig helping a woman named Sarah with her food stand. The hours were tough, super early. And you know what? The pay at the end of the week? It wasn't much. Not a lot of money at all. But here's the thing, right? That little bit of cash was worth so much more than what it could buy. It was physical proof. It was evidence that he could contribute, that his work had value, and that voice inside his head, the one that told him he was useless, it was a liar. And that little piece of proof, that tiny bit of self-worth he'd just earned, was about to face a major test. This brings us right into our next section, building from nothing. This is where Daniel gets a real opportunity, but with it comes all that old fear and doubt. A local shop owner, a woman named Ruth, she sees how hard he works and just offers him a proper job, right there on the spot. But the second she says it, bam, that old voice in his head comes roaring back. You're not ready for this. You're gonna fail. You always fail. And this is the moment, this is the turning point. Everything he'd managed to build could have just turned to dust right then and there if he listened to that voice. So what's he gonna do? He didn't listen. In that split second, with all that fear swirling around, he just pushed through it. He made the same choice he'd been making all along, just on a much bigger stage, the choice to move forward. He said one word, just one, yes. But saying yes is the easy part, right? Now he actually has to do the work. And that brings us to section 3, the first real test. This new job with Ruth, this was the real deal. This was a trial by fire. And just when Daniel is starting to feel like he belongs, like he's actually getting somewhere, disaster strikes. It's day 60 on his 90-day clock, and this massive corporation moves in across the street. They're selling the same stuff, but for way, way cheaper. And just like that, Ruth's business and Daniel's entire new life is about to be wiped out. And this really lays out the whole conflict, doesn't it? It's the classic David versus Goliath story. On one side, you've got Ruth's shop. It has a real story, it's part of the community. But on the other side, the big company has all the resources, all the corporate power. They could just crush them without even trying. Now, the old Daniel, he would have just given up. He would have seen this as proof that the universe was against him. But this leads us to section 4, the fight for survival. Because the new Daniel, he saw the one thing they had that the corporation could never, ever buy. So he comes up with this plan. And honestly, it's as terrifying as it is brilliant. He decides he's going to go door to door. He's going to tell Ruth's story, face to face, and just ask his neighbors to choose. And in that moment, you see him change from a student into a leader. That first day, it was brutal. I mean, he goes out there and knocks on 30 different doors. 30. And he's just getting rejection after rejection. And out of all those 30 doors he knocked on, you know how many people actually listened? 4. Just 4 people said they'd stop by the shop. It seems like nothing, right? A tiny result for all that work. But here's the key. It wasn't 0. It was proof that the plan could work. And so he made that choice again, to keep going. Weeks later, after the fight is over and they won, Marcus says this to him, and it's so profound. He points out what really changed in Daniel. He says, "You became someone that other people believe in. You built that by yourself." He didn't just learn how to do a job. He built a whole new identity, one person, one conversation at a time. And what Marcus said there, that really gets to the core of this whole thing, which brings us to our last section, a new identity. See, this wasn't something someone gave him. It was something he forged himself through his actions. He wasn't defined by who he was anymore. He was defined by the choices he was making right now. So, if we boil this whole amazing story down to one single idea, it's this, the one decision rule. It's the choice to just keep going. And it's not a choice you make once, in some big, heroic moment. No, it's the small, quiet choice you have to make again every single morning, every time a door gets slammed in your face. Think about it. Daniel wasn't special. He didn't have any secret advantages. He just took this one decision rule and applied it for 90 days. And it just goes to show you, transformation isn't about some stroke of luck or incredible talent. It's about persistence, which really just leaves us with one question to think about for ourselves.